Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, welcome to my channel. And before I start, I just want to let you know that I'm trying a new headset today and I don't have enough time to refilm this video. So I'm just gonna try. Just let me know if the audio is bad because I'm just trying with the new headset. Just let me know. I don't have enough time to refilm this. Okay, let me find where we are. I'm so sorry I forgot. Oh yeah, okay. Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, Sword of Summer, Chapter 33. Chapter 33. Sam's brother wakes up kinda cranky. When I see the serpent opened his eyes, he switched on green spotlights as the size of trampolines. His irises glowed so intensely I was pretty sure everything I saw for the rest of my life would be tinted the color of lime jello. The good news, the rest of my life didn't look like it was going to be very long. The monster's rigid forehead and tapered snout made him look more like an eel than a snake. His hide glistened in a camouflage patchwork of green, brown, and yellow. Here I am calmly describing him. At the time, the only thought in my head was, "Yikes, you sake!" He opened his mouth and hissed. The stench of rancid bull's head and poison so strong my clothes smelled. He may not have mouthwash, but obviously the world serpent cared about flossing. His teeth gleamed in rows of perfectly white triangles. His pink maw was big enough to swallow Harold's bow and a dozen of Harold's closest friends' boats. My meat hook was embedded in the back of his mouth, right where the hangy Uvala thing would be a human mouth. The serpent didn't seem too happy about that. He shook back and forth, raking the steel line across his teeth. My fishpole whipped sideways. The boat seesawed port to starboard, planks cracking and popping, but somehow we stayed afloat. My line didn't break. Sam, I said in a small voice, why didn't he kill us yet? Sam pressed so close to me I could feel her shivering. I think he's studying us, maybe even trying to talk to us. What's he saying? Sam gulped. My guess? How dare you? The serpent hissed, spitting globs of poison that sizzled against the desk. Behind us, Harold whimpered, "Drop the pole, you fools! You'll get us killed!" I tried to meet the serpent's gaze. Hey, Mr. Jormungand. Can I call you Mr. J? Look, sorry to bother you. Nothing personal. We're just trying to use you to get somebody's attention. Mr. J didn't like that. His head surged out of the water, towering above us, then crashed down again off the bow, triggering a 40-foot tall ring of waves. Sam and I were definitely sitting in the splash zone. I ate salt water for lunch. My lungs discovered that they could not, in fact, breathe the stuff. My eyes got a throughout power washing, but incredibly, the boat didn't capsize. When the rocking and the sloshing subsided, I found myself still alive, still holding the fishpole with my line still attached to the world serpent's mouth. The monster stared at me like, why are you not dead? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a tsunami crash giant against the graves, washing all the way up to the base of the lighthouse. I wonder if I just flooded Boston. I remembered why Jormungand was called the World Serpent. Supposedly his body was so long it wrapped around the earth, stretching across the sleep floor like a monster telecommunication cable. But most of the time he kept his tail in his mouth. Hey, I used a pacifier until I was almost 2, so I can't judge. But apparently he decided our Bull's Head Bay was worth the switch. The point being, if the world serpent was shaking, the whole world might be shaking with him. So, I said to nobody particular. What now? Magnus, Sam said in a strange voice. Try not to panic, but look off the starboard side. I couldn't imagine what would be more panic-inducing than Mr. J until I saw the woman in the whirlpool. Compared to the serpent, she was tiny, only about 10 feet. From the waist up, she wore a blouse of silver chainmail encrusted with barnacles. She might have once been beautiful, but her porcelain skin was withered. Her seaweed green eyes were milky with cacticarts, and her rippling blonde hair was short through the gray, like a blight in a like a blight in a wheat field. From the waist down, things got weird. Spinning around her like a dancer's skirt was a waterspout filled within a silver fishing net 100 yards in diameter, taped, wrapped in its weave was a kaleidoscope of ice floe, dead fish, plastic garbage bags, car tires, grocery carts, and other assorted flotsam. As the woman floated toward us, the edge of her net warped against our hull and scraped against the world serpent's neck. She spoke in a deep baritone. "Who dares interrupt my scavenging?" Harold the Frost Giant screamed. He was a champion screamer. He scrambled to the boat and threw a bunch of gold coins over the side. Then he turned to say, quick girl, your payment to me. Give it to Rand." Sam frowned, but she tossed another another 5 coins overboard. Instead of sinking, the red glow swirled into Rand's net and joined the floating merry-go-round of Deborah's. "Oh, great, Rand!" held Rand. Please don't kill me. Here, take my enter. Take these humans. You can have my lunchbox." "Silence!" the goddess cooed away the frost giant, who did his best to cover, growl, and retreat at the same time. I'll be below deck, so you stop praying." Rand regarded me as if deciding whether I was large enough to fill it. "Release Jormungand, mortal. Release Jormungand, mortal. The last thing I need today is a world-flooding event." The world serpent hissed in agreement. Rand turned on him. "And you shut up, you overgrown Murray. And all your withering is stirring up the silt. I can't even see a thing down there. How many times have I told you not to bite any old rancid bull's head? Rancid bull's head are not native to these waters." The world serpent snarled and snarled petulantly, tugging at the steel cable in his mouth. "Oh, great, Rand," I said. "I'm Magnus Chase. This is Sam Al-Abbas. We've come to bargain with you. Also, just wondering, why can't you just cut the fishing line yourself?" Rand let loose a torrent of Norse curses that literally steamed the air. Now she was closer. I could see the strange things swirling in her net. Ghostly bearded faces, gasping and terrified as they tried to reach the surface, her hands clawing at the ropes. "Worthless and Harriar," said the goddess. "Do you know full well what you've done?" "I do. I I do?" I asked. "You are Venir spawn, a, a child of Njord?" Rand sniffed the hair. "No, your scent is fainter, perhaps a grandchild." Sam's eyes widened. "Right! Magnus is the son of Barry, son of Njord, god of the ships, sailors, and fishermen. That's why our boat didn't capsize. That's why you were able to catch the serpent." She looked at Rand, which of course he already knew. Sam snarled. "Once brought to the surface, the world serpent is not simply bound by your fishing line. He's connected to you by fate. You must now decide, and quickly, whether to cut him loose or return to Return him to his slumber, or let him awaken fully and destroy your world. In the back of my neck, something snapped like a crusty spring, probably the last bit of my courage. I looked at the world serpent. For the first time, I noticed that his glowing green eyes peepers were covered by a thin translucent membrane. Second set of eyelids. Do you mean he's only partially awake? If he were full awake, said the goddess, your entire eastern seaboard would already be underwater. I had to resist the urge to throw away the fishing pole, undo my safety harness, and run around the deck screaming like little Harold. I'll release him, I said. But first, Great Ran, you have to promise to negotiate with us with good faith. We want to barter. Barter with you? Rand skirts whirled faster. Ice and plastic crackled. Shopping carts plowed into one another. By rights, Magnus Chase, you should belong to me. You died of drowning. Drowned souls are my property. Actually, Sam said he died in combat, so he belongs to Odin. Technicalities, Rand snapped. The faces in Rand's neck gapped and grasped, pleading for help. Sam told me there are worse places to spend your afterlife than Valhalla. I imagined myself tangled in a silvery web. I was suddenly grateful to my Valkyrie. Well, okay then, I said. I guess I can just let Mr. J wake up fully. I didn't have any plans for tonight. No, Sam Brand hissed. Do you have any idea how hard it is to scavenge along the sleeve floor when Jormungand is agitated? Let him go. And he let him go. And he promised to negotiate in good faith, I asked. Yes, fine. I'm in no mood for Ragnar today. Say, by my throats, I'm a goddess. I know better than to swear by my throat. I glanced at Stram, who shrugged. She handed me her axe, and I cut the fish line. Jormungand sank beneath the waves, glaring at me through the bubbling sea-green cloud of poison. As he descended, as if to say, next time, little mortal. Sam's swirling skirts slowed to the speed of a tropical storm. Well, very well, Anheriar. I promise to barter in good faith. What do you want? The Sword of Summer, I said. I had it with me when I hit the Charles River. Rand's eyes glistened. Oh, yes, I could give you the sword, but in exchange I want something valuable. I'm thinking your soul. Chapter 34. My sword almost ends up on eBay. I'm not thinking, I replied. Rand made a rumbling sound like a whale's heart with a heartburn. You, Ranson of the Meddler, Nodrod, come here asking to barter, disturbing the world serpent, interrupting my scavenging, and you won't even agree to a reasonable offer? The Sword of Summer is the greatest artifact to come into my net in ages. Your soul is a small price to pay in exchange. Lord Rand, Sim took back her axe and slipped it down from the fishing chair. Magnus has already been claimed by Odin. He's an Anheriar. That cannot be changed. Besides, I said, you don't want my small soul. It's really small. I don't use it much. I doubt it even works anymore. The god's watery skirts swirled. Trapped souls clawed for the surface. Plastic garbage bags popped like bubble wrap, and the smell of dead fish almost made me nostalgic for the bull's head. What do you offer me then? Rand demanded. What could possibly worth as that sword? Good question, I thought. I stared into the goddess's nets. An idea began to form. You said you were scavenging, I recalled. For what? What for? Sorry, what for? The goddess's expression softened. Her eyes shone in a greedier shade of green. Many things. Coins, souls, lost valuables of every description. Just before you woke up the serpent, I had my eye on a chewy Malibu radial hubcap, uh, hubcap, uh, hubcap that was worth $40 easy. I was sitting there in the bottom of the harbor, but now, she threw up her hands, gone. You collect stuff, I corrected myself. I mean, wonderful treasures. Sam squinted at me, clearly checking if I had lost my mind. But I was starting to understand what made Rand tick, what she cared about most. The goddess stretched her fingers toward the horizon. Have you heard of the Pacific garbage patch? I have, Lady Rand, Sam said. It's a floating collection of rubbish the size of Texas. It sounds terrible. It's amazing, said the goddess. The first time I saw it, I was overwhelmed. I put my own collection to shame. For centuries, all the shipwrecks of the northern seas have been mine to claim. Anything lost in the depths comes to me. But when I saw the wonders of the garbage patch, I realized how puny my efforts had been. Ever since, I'd spent my time scavenging the seafloor, looking for additions to my net. If I wouldn't have found your store, if if I would not have found your store if I hadn't been so quick. I nodded with empathy. Now I could fit the Norse goddess into the Magnus Chase worldview. Rihanna was a big lady. I could work with a big lady. I mean, Rihanna was a bag lady. I could work with a bag lady. I peered overboard at the floating junk, a silver teaspoon balanced on an island of styrofoam. Bicycle wheels spun past, showing the ghostly head of a soul. Lady Rihanna, I said, your husband, Aegir, is the lord of the sea, right? You share a golden palace with him in the bottom of the ocean? The goddess scowled. What's your point? Well, what does your husband think? Well, what does your husband think of your collection? Aegir, Rand spat. The greater of the sea storms. These days, the only thing he wants to do is brew his med. He's always been a brewer, but lately it's ridiculous. He spends all his time at the hop shop or going on a bereaver tours with his buddies. And don't even get me started on that flannel shirt, rolled up jeans, glasses, and the way he trims his beard. He's always talking to me about microbrewers. He has a cauldron mile wide. How can he be a microbrewer? Right, I said. That must be annoying. He doesn't appreciate how important your treasures are. He has a lifestyle, Rand said. I have mine. Finn looked bewildered, but all of this made total sense to me. I knew a bag lady in Charleston whose husband had left her $6 million mansion on Beaconsfield, but sitting home alone had made her feel suffocated, lonely, and unhappy, so instead she lived on the streets, pushing her shopping cart, collecting plastic lawn ornaments and aluminum cans. That made her feel complete. Rand frowned. What were we talking about again? The Sword of Summer, I said. And what I could offer you in return? Yes, what I'm offering you, I said, is to let you keep your collection. A frost spread down the ropes of the net. Rand's tone turned dangerous. Are you threatening to take my stuff? Oh no, I never want to do that. I understand how valuable, because this whirling plastic sunflower ornament right here, they don't make these anymore. It's easily worth $10. Right. But if you don't give me the Sword of Summer, Serval and his giants will come looking for it, and then they won't show you such respect. Rand scoffed. The sons of Muspel cannot touch me. My realm is deadly to them. But Surt has many allies, Sam said, picking up on my idea. They would annoy you Harris, you take your treasures. Do anything to retrieve that sword, and once they'll have it, they'll start Ragnarok, and there'll be no more scavenging. The oceans will boil, collection will be destroyed. No! Shrieked the goddess. Yes, I said, but if you give us the sword won't have any reason to bother you. We'll keep it safe. Brienne scowled at her net, studying the patterns of glittering trash. And how, son of fairy, will the sword be safer with you than with me? You cannot return it to your father. Fairy gave up his rights to use the weapon when he gifted it to Skirnir. Skirnir. For the millionth time, I just wanted to find my freckling summer god dad and smack him. Why did he give away his weapon in the first place? For love? Weren't gods supposed to be smarter than that? Then again, Rand collected hubcaps, and Agir was into microbrewing. I will do myself, I said, or I'll take you back to Valhalla for keepsaking. In other words, you don't know the goddess art. And the goddess arched her kelpie eyebrows at Sam. And you, daughter of Loki, why are you siding with the gods of Asgard? Your father is no friend of theirs, not any more. I am not my father, Sam said. I was a Valkyrie. Ah, yes, a girl who dreamed of flying, but the Thanes of Valhalla expelled you. Why are you still trying to earn their favor? You don't need them to fly. You know very well that with your father's blood, give us a sword, Lady Rianne. Sam's voice hardened. It is the only way to delay Ragnarok. The goddess smiled sourly. You even sound like her, Louis. It was such a persuasive speaker. For one moment flattering, the next moment threatening. Once he actually convinced him to lend him my net, and and that led to all sorts of trouble. Loki figured out that the secret of net weaving. The the gods learned how, and then the humans. Pretty soon everyone had nets. My trademark item. I wouldn't be so easily convinced again. I'll keep the sword and take my chances with Zut. I unstrapped myself from the fishing chair. I moved to the tip of the bow and locked eyes with the goddess. I didn't normally shake down bag ladies, but I had to make Rian take me seriously. I lifted the chain from my belt. I lifted the chain from my belt. The silver links glinted in the fading light. Hang on, where was I? I'm so sorry for no reals. Let me just read that again. I unstrapped myself from the fishing chair. I moved the tip of the bow and locked eyes with the goddess. I don't normally shake down bag ladies, but I had to make Rian take me seriously. I lifted the chain from my belt. The silver links glinted in the fading light. This chain is also a sword, I said. An authentic blade from Valhalla. How many of those do you have in your net? Tom tried to reach for the chain, then caught herself. Yes, I can see the sword through the glamour, but why would I trade a new sword for an old one I offered? The blade is skinnier, only used once in combat. You'd get $20 for it, no problem. The sword of somewhere however, has no resale value. True, but the other option, I said, is I take the sword of summer. It belongs to me. Sam growled, her fingernails stretched into my jagged teeth. How dare you threaten me, mortal? I'm just telling the truth, I said, trying to stay calm. I can sense the sword within your nets, told I. I pulled it from the depths once before. I can do it again. The sharp is the sharpest weapon in the 9 worlds. Do you really want to cut through your nets, spilling all your stuff, freeing all the trapped souls? If they got away, you think they'd fight for you or against you? Her gaze wavered. You would not dare. Trade me sword for sword, I said, and I'll throw one of Udin's apples in for what? And throw in one of Aiden's apples for our trouble. Rand hissed. You said nothing about the apple. It's an easy request, I said. And I've got an extra apple of immortality swirling around there somewhere. Then we'll go in peace, we'll stop Ragnarok, and let you get back to your scavenging. Otherwise, I shrugged, you'll find out what the son of Fairy can do with his father's sword. I was pretty sure the goddess would start laughing in my face, capsize the boat, and add our drowned souls to her collection. But I stared at her down like I had nothing to lose. After a count of 20, long enough for a bead of sweat to trickle down my neck and freeze my collars, Dran snarled. Very well. She flicked her hand. The sword of summer came up flying out of the water and landed in my grip. Immediately began to hum, agitating every molecule in my body. I tossed the chain overboard. Now the apple. The piece of food shot out from the net. It would have been Sam between her eyes if it not for her fast reflexes. The apple didn't look like much, just a shriveled golden delicious. But Sam held it gingerly as if it were radioactive. She slipped it into her coat pocket. Go now as you promised, I answered. But I tell you this, son of Fairy, your high-hand bargaining will cost you dearly. You've made an enemy of Rand. My husband, Aegir, Lord of Waves, will also hear about this. If I can get him out of the hop shop for your sake, I hope you're not planning any more sea voyages. Next time, your kingship with Nodred will not save you. Cross my waters again, and I will personally drag your soul to the bottom. Well, I said, that's something to look forward to. Rand spun. Her form blurred into a misty funnel cloud. Her nets were wrapping around her like swirl spaghetti. She sank into the depths and she was gone. Sam shrugged. That was interesting. Behind us, the ladder creaked. Harold's head popped up from below. Interesting, he demanded. Did you say it was interesting? He climbed back, glaring at us, his fists balled. His icy blue beard dripping. Wild serpent fishing, that's one thing, but antagonizing Rand, I would never have taken you aboard if I had known. No matter what Big Boy said, I have to make a living on the ocean. I should throw you overboard. I'll pay you double the price, Sam said. 10 red gold and just take us back to the dock. Harold blinked. Okay. He headed for the wheelhouse. I studied the Sword of Summer. Now that I had it, I wasn't sure what to do with it. The steel glowed in its own light. Silvery ruins burning along the flat blade. The sword radiated warmth, heating the air around me. The frost on the railing, filling with the same sense of quiet power I felt when I had healed someone. It was so much like holding a weapon, more like holding an open door to a different time. Walking with my mom in the blue hills, feeling the sunlight on my face. Sam reached over. She was still wearing her oversized leather gloves. She brushed a tear off my cheek. I hadn't realized I was crying. Sorry, I said, my voice hoarse. Sam studied with concern. You could really have some of that sword from Rand. I don't know. In that case, you're insane. But I'm impressed. I lowered the blade. It kept humming as if trying to tell me something. What did Rand mean? I asked. When she said you didn't need to be a Valkyrie to fly. Something about your father's blood? Sam's expression closed up faster than Rand's nets. It's not important. Are you sure about that? Her axe hung on her belt. She looked everywhere but my eyes. As sure as you could summon that sword. The outboard engines rumbled. The ship began to turn. I'll bet the wheel would Harold, Sam said, apparently anxious to put some distance between us. I'll make sure he takes us to Boston and not Jotunheim. we just got to learn a lot about Sam, apparently, in this chapter. It was a really fun chapter, not gonna lie. I really liked it, and it was good that we got the sword without having to lose anything. I'm really wondering what's gonna be next because we're kind of in the middle of the book now, but like we're not there. I don't. They're like 72 chapters, so I don't know how fast we're gonna get there, but because I don't always read 2 chapters a day, I sometimes read one. And seriously, you guys, let me know how the audio quality is because from my end, it sounds quite different than for your end. So just let me know because if it's not working, I'll try it with like no headphones or go back to my old headphones. I don't know. So that's what we learned for today. Read for today, sorry. That's what we read today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.